very competent, dynamic team of panelists here. We're waiting for one more. And who knows the topic of this afternoon session? Just a random person. You can just stand, tell us your name. Remember, there are recruiters and decision makers seated right here. So you never know. Who knows the topic of this session this afternoon? Okay, so how did you come? We just saw a fancy, nice-looking room with good colors. It's warmer, and decided this is the place you want to be. All right. Anyone who wants to guess? Yes. Tell us your name and the topic. Okay. Anyone who has a different opinion? Yes, a lady. Tell us your name and the topic. Okay. Any other person with your hand was up first, I think, before her, but let me just give her a chance and I'll give you a chance. Yes? Agnes? Proper job application. Thank you, Agnes. And your name is? Evolution of tech from a recruiter's perspective. Judges, not judges, panelists. What do you think the topic is? It seems we are very divided here. We are very dynamic. Who wants to take it up? Who wants to clarify and say what exactly we want to discuss this afternoon? I know it could be a mix of all of them, but we want to see what specifically are we focusing on. Anyone from the panelists? But I can read it out. So the topic today is the evolution of tech, a technical recruiter's perspective, the role of corporates and training institutions in bridging the skills gap. So you're talking about the evolution of technology from a recruiter's perspective and from the business perspective, correct? So let's have that mindset. That's why we have a mix of recruiters and decision makers and developers in the house. All right, so before we finalize on this topic thing, I want to hear one or two expectations. Everyone here has an expectation, right? What they expect to get out of this. Welcome. Wale? Yes. So I just want to hear roughly, what are the expectations? I mean, what is your biggest expectation apart from being in a warmer room that is well lit with amazing panelists? Okay. Thank you, Sri. Any expectation from this side and this side? Maybe one person this side, one person this side. Any courageous person? Your hand is up. The more courageous. Well, I think from a recruiter's point of view, we are already scouting for talent here. Going once? Anyone who has an expectation? Going twice? Okay. Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. That's interesting. Any other expectations from this side? Yes. Samuel Hinga. Okay. Thank you. Any other lady? Any lady to give us a last expectation? Diversity and inclusion is a big thing today, so just want to hear whether the ladies will ambush us or they will prove otherwise. You want? Thank you very much. Thank you so much. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we want to start this session. The panelists here will try as much as possible to respond to some of the expectations that you have raised, but most importantly, give a lot of information around how you can be able to succeed in this career. And I want to take this privilege to introduce them. And I'll give them the opportunity to introduce themselves by their name and what they're currently doing and the companies they represent. From there, we'll move into the next step. So without any particular order, I think I'll just from here, you stand, you tell us your name, what you do, and the company you're representing. Yeah.
Hi, guys. Hi. Are you feeling too cold? Anyway, so my name is Nimrod Kimani, and I'm a technical recruiter, currently engaged at Xenia. Yes, thank you. So it's broad. So wow. So front end, back end, DevOps, blockchain. Yes, I think the list is quite huge. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Irene Wamboi. You can find me on LinkedIn or Irene Mwangi. I'm a technical recruiter with Microsoft, and I'm glad to be here and associate with you guys and answer any questions you might have about coming into the job market. So please feel free to be as interactive as possible. Ask all the questions that you've always wanted to ask, and do not leave any stone unturned. We are here for you, so please take advantage of that. Very broad. I'm recruiting for software engineers, senior software engineers, engineering leads, engineering managers across all facets of the organization. I'm doing a lot of program management. I'm doing a lot of security engineering, and I'm also recruiting for a lot of our data centers.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thanks, Amos, for inviting me, and Sarah, wherever she's, I don't know. Yeah, myself, I am Sridhara. I'm coming from right now Portugal, Lisbon. I happen to work here, stay here for the last 5 years, and somehow I moved to Portugal. My role right now in this company, Bring Global, is I'm an enterprise architect. Thanks again for inviting me for this session. I'm not a recruiter, first of all. I'm here to demystify some of the major technical aspects that we go through every day. Probably the graduates who get trained in places like Moringa or any place outside. So I'm here to demystify or clarify how the path should be, what you should learn, how you should learn, and to what extent you should learn. Some of those aspects I'm going to cover. I'm an enterprise architect, so I have a quite broad range of expertise in many of the tech stacks, the domains, the banking to insurance to telcos, medical, logistics. So you name it, few. So feel very free to ask any kind of questions. I'm here to help you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Noella Monzia. I am a software engineer and a technical team lead at a company called Delewa. Basically here today to be able to give insights on the recruitment process from a software engineer perspective. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Jason Anjoy. I head product at a company called Savannah Informatics, and I am here in the representation of my company, and we're recruiting. Actually, we had some interviews early in the morning. If you're good in front end, back end, DevOps, analytics, there's opportunities. Thank you.
Good afternoon, guys. My name is Wallace. So I'm from Safaricom. I look into tech recruitment. So basically, we are looking at a number of roles at the moment, from full stack developers, backend developers, front end. We have support engineers, solutions architect, among many other roles. So maybe from the interactions that I've had with a number of students, I won't mention the roles from the telecommunication side of it, but around software development. I'm looking forward to having an interactive session with you guys.
I think something to take away from these introductions are that beyond the good conversation that we'll have here is also an opportunity for all of us to not only interact with these dear ones here, but also to pick out what opportunities exist with their organizations and how, as an individual, you can be able to tap into it. Agreed? Yes. So don't be just a passive listener who just comes and listens and goes away with good information, but I think do the proactiveness to be able to engage. Yeah. So I want to throw the initial question as we start this conversation. Let's look at the landscape and how the tech landscape is in Kenya from a policy perspective, but also from the maturity perspective. How far have we come so far? You all know that Kenya at the moment is big companies are coming in. I mean, the startups that we have been able to stabilize, and we have very many mushrooming tech companies. Some of them are Kenyan-based, others are funded from outside, others are Kenyan-owned but managed by external people. Others are mid-level companies, and also we have the big boys in the house. I mean, before 2019, Microsoft wasn't in Kenya from a tech point of view. But look, here we are. We have Microsoft, we have Google, we have AWS, and other big companies are coming. So Kenya is slowly becoming a big economy that is attracting both, startups and mid-level to big companies. I just want to hear from the panelists here. How is the landscape looking like from the far we have come, but also from a policy perspective? Just helping these young ones here to have a broad understanding of where we are at. I don't want to point it to anyone, but anyone who thinks probably can, who has information to help us see how far we have come from a technology point of view to start us off. Anyone from the panel, feel free to respond to it. If anyone has an extra microphone, probably you can help us with it.
Thanks, Amos. Yeah. So, first of all, the Africa region, and particularly in Kenya, it has a lot of potential in terms of the technical team members, the young talent who's got out-of-the-box thinking. And that's where the world has started realizing. And that's where, in fact, we've set up this company here. It's almost like now 10 years here. So we've already realized pretty long back. And our leadership also, we realized that, okay, there's a lot of potential where we can groom the young, the tech members here. What I feel almost is, the big tech giants like Microsoft or Google or Amazon, why they're coming, because they have seen that potential in the young talent that we have. Unlike the mature markets like India or China or some of the Philippines, those places. Now the Kenya, or for that matter, the East African region, it has got a lot of potential. So you, as a tech members or the young people, you need to reap those benefits, learn new things, think out of the box, think like analytical person, not as a programmer, a typical programmer where you copy something from Google and write a code. No, you need to be a product oriented. How my code, my things are going to change the product that these big companies are going to use. So yes, almost we're going to see a great change, a paradigm shift in the way technology is going to see, the entire world is going to see in this region. Yeah.
And from an outsider point of view, when Bring Global made the decision to pitch tent in Kenya, relocating you, coming here to support the organization, what is it that you saw in the Kenyan market in terms of talent and potential that you think is not available in Uganda, not available in Rwanda, not available in Tanzania. And I'm seeing the same with other companies. They're coming to fish in Kenya. Why? Why is Kenya becoming increasingly attractive to the global market?
Yeah, so I really don't want to compare with other regions of this place like Uganda or Rwanda or those places. But what I've seen for the last 5, because I was based out of Kenya like for almost 6 years, and I've seen the potential, the tech members here, the persons that they carry. They have a lot of immense analytical thinking. The way they think, it's just like they want to get these things done to finesse. It's just not like that, like, okay, I do a job, a task, and go home. No. They can go a bit deeper in modularizing, taking the product to a nice, finesse state. Those things I've observed personally. So they are also carrying that never say die attitude. So they go an extra mile. That's how I believe, the world is also now looking towards this region. Almost.
Thank you. If I can get an extra mic, that would be very, very good. Allow me to ask Irene. One of the trends we have seen from Microsoft point of view is very heavy investment in Kenya. Yeah, from the Africa Development Center to now other mushrooming projects that are heavily funded for Kenya. Why Kenya? What is it in the Kenyan tech talent that has seen this heavy investment that you think this dear ones needs to know?
Thank you, Amos. So one of the things that I'll start with, like even where I was before, which was Andela, coming into Microsoft. The one thing that Kenya has is untapped talent, a lot of untapped talent. And Kenyans are curious by nature. You'll see a lot of people developing apps, a lot of people developing just products to solve the gaps or within the ecosystem or within the environment. And that, I think, is one of the key things that these companies are seeing. That these people are curious, these people are innovative. All they need is the funding and the skills and the mentorship for it to grow. And we've also seen a lot of government push to just be able to invite different companies to come and invest in this particular market because of this emerging talent. And the way the world is going, it's totally tech. I don't see that changing anytime soon. Everything that you're using now has been evolved or created by tech. So meaning this is the kind of talent that we're looking to grow. And Microsoft in specific has seen that, hey, apart from US and America and Europe and wherever, we can see that Africa actually has a lot of untapped talent. I've seen very heavy investment in Kenya, very heavy investment in Nigeria, very heavy investment in Egypt. And even I, as a recruiter, when I'm going to recruit this type of talent, guys are actually highly skilled. All they need is the opportunity to actually showcase the skills and grow in this particular tech talent. And that's why we've also seen a lot of remote companies coming to, look for this particular talent. So I think schools like Moringa and other developing institutions that are actually nurturing the tech talent have realized this as well. And for me, my advice to these young people, please tap into this. Like, you guys are in the right place at the right time. So if you harness your skills and you learn from everybody around you and you get mentorship in this, you can actually do great things. And don't think that you only can do great things when you're in a certain company. You can innovate your own thing so that even when you go to this certain company, you're like, hey, these are the projects I've done, this is the app I've developed. You can actually be your own employer at the end of the day and you'll do great.
All right. Also would like to get any other. Wallace, I think you also have a broader spectrum in observing how things are from Safaricom point of view. Give us a panoramic view of how the tech space is, and helping these dear ones to appreciate how far we have come.
Okay, thanks, Samus. So I think I'll agree with my colleague over here in terms of the number of heavy investment that have been coming to Kenya in specific. And I think one of the biggest factors that are influencing the same is, as Kenyans, we are curious and we like to put out ourselves. We like to showcase our capabilities, and we see that's what people are looking out there. So if you showcase me your capability, I'll be interested in your idea and I'll want to fund it. So I think basically, as a technical person, is what's that unique thing that you're going to put out to the market that is going to set you apart from the rest, okay? And some point, it doesn't have to be, let's say, an original idea. So sometimes you build on an existing product. So you are using, let's say I'm using this phone, for example, okay? There's some functionalities that this phone can't do. So can I peg on that and listen to other user stories on why this phone has a limitation, and then come up with an idea on how I can make this better. So at the end of the day is, how do you put up yourself there? Even other than from an investment perspective, even as a talent. So as a young tech graduate, so how are you portraying yourself out there for you to be visible? And because I've previously, before I joined Safaricom, I was at Cellulant, and having recruited in around 18 markets across Africa, I can agree with her that Nigeria and Egypt are very big when it comes to tech. Another country that I've realized has very good tech talent is Zimbabwe. The only limitation there is the environment and actually the economy, because they are being poached from South Africa. But in terms of quality, they are really good. So it's basically how you put yourself out. So how you portray yourself, even you as a tech. That's what I'll pick from.
Allow me to also ask the developer in this panel, in terms of technology and technology advancements, where do you think, in your own assessment, I mean, we are always developing new things and trends are coming in. Where do you think, from a technology point of view, where do you think we are headed? Is it all about learning different programming languages? Is it about learning a specific skill as a developer to manage other developers? If you can project in the next 5 to 10 years in terms of where technology will be moving, what would you say from a tech lead point of view, having been a developer, now you're leading groups?
So in terms of how basically technical trends have been evolving, one thing that I can actually say, tech is always evolving. We have new, especially new frameworks coming up each and every other day. But one of the most underlying things is most programming principles tend to stay the same. So I know most of you are techies here. So for example, if you probably went to grad school, you did an undergrad related to tech, or maybe you have gone through the Moringa program, you'll probably come across a concept called solid. And you'll find that most of these underlying things in tech still pretty much stay the same. Because solid was something that was emphasized probably 5 years ago. It's still heavy in today's development. It's still going to be there in a couple of years. So one of the most important things is always having, as long as someone has the right foundations, as long as you understand the core concepts of programming, regardless of how tech is evolving, regardless of how many frameworks, regardless of how new technologies are coming up, it's always going to be easy to adapt to, the new changes that are coming up. Yeah.
Let me just say I have some background in tech. So what I'd say the future looks like is we are going to get more refined processes when it comes to developing software applications. And one of the things that I've seen some companies do is they've sort of created some sort of customer journey that they know can fit a lot of people. So the idea is you want to be able to create what is called your own marketplace, where you have a user base that interacts with your products and you're able to sort of have an ecosystem around it. So the proof behind this would be what we've seen happen in China with WeChat. So they've created an ecosystem around that. And also seeing it in the M-Pesa app where they're allowing third-party developers to actually add their own applications. And we happen to be among the people who've added our own application within this ecosystem. So it's just how we interact with each other across these ecosystems. I see a lot of that happening.
Okay, yeah. So I think from a skill set perspective, if you can look at all the industries, automation is the order of the day. Even from, let's say, the automotive industries, we have self-driving cars. So even you as an individual, 10 years from now, so you look at how is tech changing and how am I prepared for that? Because 10 years down the line, that's what recruiters will be looking at. Because today we have customer support that is self-serve. So you don't need to interact with a human interface, so robotics and automation. So watch out on that.
Brilliant, brilliant. The second element to this conversation is exactly what are we looking for, or what do recruiters look for when they're hiring tech talent? And I know this bench has many recruiters, and I want just to give each one a chance to say what they are looking for in their company, and basically what they are looking for if they're hiring junior talent, because I think majority here are junior talent. So you can give us a perspective of your company and speaking into the junior talent that is seated here. So I want to still start from Kimani there, just to say, when you're doing your recruitment for junior talent or software engineers, what exactly are you looking for? I know some of the points will be repeated, but let's just see how many points we can gather and then how we can be able to help.
Thank you, Amos. So I think that's a very good question, and generally, just thinking about it, it's skills. And what do I mean by this? There are different kinds of skills, and we find besides that, something else that we also look at is the alignment of the tech stacks to what the organization is using. So you'll find if I'm to go deep into skills, you can either have hard skills or soft skills. Actually, it's recommended to have both. So what do I mean by hard skills? Hard skills, these are skills that you use or rather utilize on a daily basis to execute your job. So say, for example, you are a Java developer. So Java would be a hard skill for you, right? And then when it comes to soft skills, these would be mostly transferable skills. So these could be communication. Think of communication. Think of teamwork and collaboration. So these soft skills are most evident when it comes to interviews, but during the preliminary assessments and reviews, it's really hard to tell about the soft skills. But when it comes to the hard skills, that's where now rubber hits the road, because you'll find that, like for us, if I can just give you a brief of how we recruit, would be we will do the headhunting. I will stalk you. Well, I'm not sure if stalking is the right word to use. On LinkedIn, different social media sites, that would be GitHub, Stack Overflow, something that I've just remembered. Remember to always do your commits on GitHub. They're really important. So, so you'll find that we use keywords to look for tech talent. And if your profile does not have the right keywords, then unfortunately will not be able to engage with you. So if you're a front-end developer, get to know what it is really that you are. And I think it's from the previous conversation that was happening, where you need to think of yourself as a software engineer. Think of yourself as a product, not just about the languages that you need to learn, or just doing a specific language because it's hot in the market. So it's always good to know, to think of yourself as a product. You know, if you're thinking API, right? Think about how the whole ecosystem that revolves around API, because you'll find we are at a time, or rather we are heading to a time where we'll need a lot of diverse skills, versatility. I think I saw something like that, where it's not just about knowing one skill, it's about being all-rounded. And I think that is really good. And also coming from a point where we have, for example, I know there is the talent war, but you'll need to stand out. And I think skills are something that will always stand out. And trust me, it will always get you a step into a door that you never thought about. So think of yourself as a product. Don't just do Java. Get to understand, if I need to connect to the cloud, you know, what do I need? If I need to understand a certain database, you know, how do I go about it, right? Because you'll find that even if I'm looking for a Java developer or an Angular developer, it's not just about that. I want to know, do you use MongoDB? Do you use, all these kind of things? So it's always good to put keen attention to your skills. Yeah.
Maybe for Irene, you can also speak into maybe 3 things that you look for as a recruiter in Microsoft, so that from there, I want to give the non-recruiters an opportunity to also speak around from non-recruiting perspective. If candidates are taken to them, what are they looking for?
Right. So apart from the skills, which we said, he clearly stated that should be clearly outlined in your CV. GitHub, update it. It shouldn't be blank. LinkedIn, a lot of hiring happens on LinkedIn, okay? So your profile better be looking good. I think one of the key things we look at is, apart from the core skills, is your ability to impact, especially for Microsoft globally. The products that you're currently working on, how is that impacting the customer? How are you impacting your own, peers around you? And that's by innovation, how you collaborate, how you communicate, and what you're bringing to the table. So that the value that you're bringing to the table is very important. And at the end of the day, let's face it, there are a lot of tech talent that is emerging. So how are you able to place or put yourself in a position of having a competitive edge in this particular market? The other thing is, how are you able to contribute to the organization? Really, like, even if you're probably hired into Microsoft, will you be just a software developer for 5 years? Are you growing? You have to have a growth mindset. So even when you're having those conversations with the recruiter, with the hiring managers, with the senior engineers who actually interview you, you have to show how how your growth mindset will play into their team. So I think those are some of the most important key things I look at as a recruiter at Microsoft.
Yeah, thanks. I think Irene and the gentleman covered most of these things. Any typical recruiter will look into the candidate or the techie. So, okay, my perspective is a bit different because that's a recruitment standpoint. I've interviewed quite a few people, not only here in India, different places, in Kenya also. The first and foremost thing, what we look at is the attitude of the individual. So some people may be saying, I've certified this thing, I've been certified in that, this, they carry with a very, I know everything kind of attitude. So get rid of that if you have, by any chance. So I know 90% or 95%, they don't have it here. I know I've seen them. Still, it's a general thing that we always look. Don't come that I know everything. Even when you go to an interview, think that, okay, I'm going to learn something from the other person sitting there. So that's the first thing I personally look, attitude, because that determines who you are, how you're going to be embedded into the company. Then the other most important thing is, yes, we know when we look at the CVs, the resumes, we know what you've been, what you've learned. It speaks a lot. What you don't write usually in the CVs is the out of the box thinking. So that's where, as the gentleman said, rubber meets the road. So we test there. What kind of out of the box thinking you carry? Okay, yes, you must have done a lot of GitHubs, a lot of these things, but not everything you've been exposed to, right? So there are different challenges, different world problems that you may not even have encountered. So there's GitHub, LinkedIn, they may not project what you are. So we check that. Is there anybody who's in the phone development? Anybody can raise hands? Anyone? The phones, the Android or whatever. Yeah, anybody interested at least? Maybe the lady is raising hands. So if I may ask you, let's say this is the phone, right? Okay. If I may ask you, what change you wish to have, not software, okay? The design of the phone, what feature you would like to add? It's an interesting question. Somebody, I raised it with them, and there's a very interesting answer that came. So I just want to test whatever you can think of. What change you would like to bring into that phone? As if like I'm interviewing you. I believe this is going to be an interactive, not a one-way. I have not seen people talking at all. Yeah, just thought to throw the mood a bit happy, pep. Yeah, what kind of change that? Then I would like to ask that gentleman also. You see, that's the out of the wood thinking that I'm expecting. The other gentleman, yeah, the gentleman who raised here, yeah. What change you would like to bring in? Forget about you two. Anybody who can raise and tell that, okay, I want to bring a small change to this phone. Yeah. Basically, you wanted to make use of the switches to, more interactive kind of thing. When I interviewed one of the guys, you know what that guy said? Okay, I want to embed a camera on the sides. Have you ever seen any phone with a camera embedded on the sides? Any phone? Always this side or this side, right? And I asked why? What makes you? So look, if I'm trying to record, I'll record and I'll put it like this. Would you even know that I'm recording? Amos, would you even know? So you see, that's the out of both thinking. Maybe very small. Look, if I'm in a spy zone, I want to spy somebody, Amos probably. I'll just flip my camera like this, okay? I'm spying on him. It's not in a bad sense, but try to think. So that's what most of the technical people think. Think out of the box, what is already normal. We know the normal is, okay, the camera is here, the switches are here, the buttons are here, right? So that's what we always look at it. Yeah, I think these two are many. Otherwise, Irene and the other gentleman already covered a lot of things. Attitude, out of the box thinking.
Maybe to also add to have question from when you're engaging developers or interviews, what else do you look for beyond what has been shared?
Okay, if you have gone through any technical interviewing or recruitment process, you do know that at some point you're always going to meet a developer. It might be one, it might be two. And basically, these guys are just not there for fun or just to increase their numbers. So what developers are usually there to do is mostly, as they have stated, is one of the things is to reinstate your technical skills. Say, for example, we as a company, we already have our technical stack. And if you've gotten to this far in the interview process, then it means that there's a high possibility that you might be your potential fit, right? So what developers or engineers in the team come in to do is just to go through the technical skills that you have stated that you have, mostly through your GitHub repositories or some of the applications that you've built, just making sure, probing you, let me just use the word probing, just to make sure that if you say or you list that you're proficient in this particular stack or proficient in this particular technology, we can't just take your word for it and just go by vibes and say, oh, you look honest, so we'll just take your word for it. So mostly it's always just to capture and then make sure that you do understand your stuff. So that's one. Another thing that developers are always there to enforce, as opposed to just the technical side of it, is also important, is the communication skills. Because remember, in software development, you always work as a team. It's very rare to find, not unless it's a small project, that's when you'll find that there's one person working on that. But in most development companies, you'll find that you have to work as a team. And for you to be able to bring out good solutions, especially that meet the client needs, there has to be constant communication. So these are some of the things that we usually, by the questions that you always ask during the interviews, seeing how you communicate is also like a way of also seeing if you might be like a potential good fit for the company. And it's sad to say that there's an interview that we recently had, and we unfortunately had to let a candidate drop off at that point because they could not be able to communicate in English, which is very important, especially if you're a company and most of your clients are probably based abroad. It's very, very important also, language. It's important to probably be fluent in English. So that's also another point, and also cultural fit. Because once again, it comes back to the essence of working as a team. So you also don't want to bring in someone who might be difficult to work with. Because unfortunately, I haven't gotten to work with someone who's difficult to deal with, but these are things that you can often catch during the interviewing process. Things like, for example, you're probing and then you're talking to the candidate about a potential project that didn't go well. And then you're asking, what do you think that was the cause? Like, why didn't this project go as was expected? So when you hear candidates starting to blame it on someone else, or, this person did that or did that, that's usually a red flag. Because, the concept of ownership is always like important in any team. I'd say that is pretty much in a nutshell what developers in a team always look at.
I'll come back to the two of you, but let me put it this way. Beyond assessing technical skills, we also assess other skills that help people be successful. What do you think? Candidates sometimes pass the technical part and they move on to the second phase. But unfortunately, not all of them pass, even the non-technical aspect. What do you think are the things that make people or developers fail? Because some of them think, once my code is working and I have a clean code, bug-free, I'm good to go. But unfortunately, some of them still fail. What is it that is in most of these developers that make them still unsuccessful, even when they have done the technical bit? From your experience, from a business point of view and from a recruiter's point of view, what is this one or two things that make very good coders still not shine or not successful, even after doing all the hard work? Maybe a point and a point to him.
Okay. So I think, according to me, it's basically not about how good you are in coding. It's about what problem are you solving. So you'll find even some of those challenges, they are more of set to check how do you approach a problem, okay? And how do you fix that problem? So it's around the ideation, because I've interviewed someone who have scored low from a technical assessment. Then they wrote to me and they're like, no, give me a chance. But when you listen to them and the thought leadership they give you, you get to understand this is a good guy. So it's not just about passing the assessment. It's around the thought leadership and what problem are you solving. So I think that's what I look at. And again, when you look at what problem are you solving, it speaks to the business. Because why do the business exist? Because we have customers and we need to fix their problems. And you see, those problems are the ones that are giving us opportunities to come up with new products, to innovate and exist. So I think it's around those two areas.
For me, I think what I can add to what has already been said is it's usually a matter of some general knowledge outside technical work that makes the difference for some people. So I know cases of really brilliant software engineers, but communication is a real problem for them. And why it's a problem is they can't even really express how good of a job they've done. And that also hinders their growth in the company. Yet you might find that there are average software engineers who have other general skills that have helped them grow up in the ranks. And that's where now I would want us to start looking into other topics. You don't need to be an expert in business, because at the end of the day, a company will hire a software engineer because they see this software engineer as an asset. And you need to understand the business side of how a company works so that you can make even a better case for yourself, even when it comes to asking for raises. That's all I can say for that.
We can just take a pause there. Let's just do one clap for them, then we want to come back. So let's watch it tufanyile ni primary school ama ni academy. Ile ya kufanya hivi inaitwa nini? Yeah, let's meta hivi kabisa. Stretch. Clap. Let's do it again. Meta, stretch, clap. Great. So I want two questions from this side and this one. Now, it's first come, first serve. So a burning question that can't wait for the next 1 minute, and a burning question as well. Your hand is already up. Someone else from this side? 1, 2, 3. Kukosa ndarudi side ingine. 1, 2, 3. Another question from this side? Good. So two gentlemen, please ask your quick questions around the things you've covered before we go to the final phase. I need someone to tell me how much time I have before we wrap it up. You can take the mic. I think we don't have any other mic. Name what you're doing or what you've done.
I don't know how I should stand, first of all. My name is Kelly, a current Moringa school student, and at the final stages, I'm currently doing Django as the backend Flask, and basically everyone who has been at Moringa and did full stack knows this. So my question is, my GitHub repository, it's all right. I have like 20 or 30 repositories, but I haven't really gotten a clear indication or a clear-cut definition of what a junior techie should have during the technical assessment for them to get to the next level. So I'd like, I'm shaking, I don't know. I'd like an explanation of. So I'd like a clear definition on what my 20, 30 repositories should have for me to like advance to the next stage of the interview. I don't know what's next.
My name is Tevin. I'm in the cybersecurity field, currently doing Moringa SE. I'm looking forward to Ruby and Rails, and that's all I've hit my target. So I'm looking at evolution of tech from a recruiter's view. My question, I was having this discussion with a 60-year-old a few days ago. She's almost retiring, and I was asking her, looking at these legacy companies or legacy institutions. We're not talking about the tech-savvy companies like Microsoft and Google and what, because of course they will always have the people who know how to acquire a talent that they want. Looking at these legacy companies that some of us would love to work in. For example, forestry, we could look at county offices where you find there is deficiency in people who are in the tech field or who know what to want this guy to do, but they do require the services of this person. So in such companies, how are they bridging the gap to recruit that which they require whilst not also losing out on the talent that they require by having their standards or their preset standards of I want a guy who comes to an interview in a suit, who dresses well, who has a bachelor's or who has a master's to qualify for this position. And what do you see is the forward trend in these kind of legacy companies or non-tech savvy companies?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Anyone from this team going once? Anyone from this team going twice? All right. As you think, anyone who wants to take to respond to those two questions about the legacy companies, yes.
So I'll start with the first question. So when it comes to having repositories that have code that's meant to do specific things, there's already a lot of that in the GitHub space. But as a recruiter, I'd want to know who has gone further in terms of who has decided that for their project, they'll do unit tests and they'll link it up to a runner, and we can see there from the profile that all unit tests are there and they've covered everything in their code. Then I'll look again, who's gone a step even further? Have they thought of doing end-to-end tests in these projects of theirs? And finally, have they even thought of deploying this project of theirs? So what I've seen over time is I'll find various degrees of who has gone how far. And for a recruiter, I'd want to, given there'll be a lot of applications, I'd want to make sure I'm spending most of my time on the most promising people. So that's how I'd look at it. Then on the other question, so unfortunately, a lot of traditional companies haven't seen the role of technology in terms of being able to transform the business itself. And while it's unfortunate, it doesn't mean that there is no hope. There are already companies that have seen the benefit of having such roles be there. And the idea is that for some of them, they might insist on papers, but there are a couple like where I work, it's not necessarily about the degree you have, it's more about the skill you have. So that's what I'll say for the second question.
Anyone else wants to respond from this panel before we move? Okay.
I think I'll add to what you said on the second question. When I'm hiring developers, I can't remember the last time I looked at what you've studied. Okay, so what I go for, what's your stack? Does it match what I'm looking for? So I think as much as we are not where we are supposed to be, we are headed there. So you don't have to be worried I have to have a master's degree or what. So it's about what am I looking for? A Java developer. Do you have it? Yes. Can I validate that through a test? Yes. Then I don't care about the papers. So maybe the papers will be there for audit purposes, but not to assess you.
All right. I really want to say something. Okay, please.
So to the second question especially, I think for techies, when you're looking for roles, make sure that you research on the company that you want to join. What kind of impact are they making in the society or globally, and how you can add on to that, yeah? And see how you can actually contribute to that and what space you can take up in that particular company. So for example, and not to quote any company before I'm sued, if you go for an interview and you hear what their requirements are and you're trying to ask, well, I'm a techie, I have this, I can do this for you, I can do this for you, but you meet some sort of resistance. They're like, no, we just need you to come to the office, do some networking, do some things, do some that. You already know that's not a company that you'd really want to work for, especially if you're an innovative person and you're looking to make some sort of impact. What impact will you really make in that particular space? Granted, sometimes you might actually join and you make them think otherwise, like they unlearn what they have been used to for years or centuries. But my advice to you would be just look out for those kind of organizations that actually embrace that and are actually embracing new things within tech. I think you'd be in a better place to grow in such a company as opposed to one that just requires you to clock in, clock out, go reboot a computer and such and such.
I want also to move this conversation into the skills gap. One of the biggest complaints that companies and even recruiters here and decision makers say is that what we learn in class and what they are looking for is a huge difference. True or false? True. And because of that, we have so many people with so many certificates, but we still have a lot of joblessness. Is it an issue of there are no opportunities? Is it an issue of skills? So my question to all of you, and I'll start with Irene here, is what role do companies, the company you represent, do to ensure that we merge or we bridge the skills gap from where you sit? And I want to give everyone a minute or so to say exactly how do we help bridge the skills gap between where, what students study and what we are looking for, to just help many young people to join the workforce.
Thank you, Emma. So I'll speak to the junior talent or the upcoming tech talent. For Microsoft, what we try and do, we have some programs. For example, the university recruitment team will actually go to universities and recruit up-and-coming talent from universities to just make sure they come and they learn and they can be absorbed into the company. And that also includes maybe someone who's left campus and within that year, they're looking for opportunities. Those are opportunities that are available to you. We have a very huge team that actually actively tries to equip university students with this sort of skills that Microsoft is looking for. So you'll come in and learn from senior engineers and actually grow within the company. The other thing we're doing is the Microsoft Leap program. I've had a lot of questions about it. So it's a 20-week program where people apply and then you're taken through. We do a lot of screening, of course, because we can't take everyone who wants to apply to the program. So when you're selected for the 20 weeks, you go through intense boot camp. And this one is carried out by program managers and also by a lot of other senior engineers within the company, and they seek to equip you with the right skills to grow up the ladder within Microsoft. So like the past cohort, I know they're about to graduate and we're really focusing on upskilling senior engineers, and they can come in to Microsoft and interview and get roles. The other thing we have is Game of Learners. It's a hackathon event. So what we seek to do is make sure that these innovations that you all have but don't have a chance to showcase, you can actually join this competition and be able to create and innovate and just showcase your overall skills, because that's where the Microsoft people come and actually say, by the way, this guy, he seemed like a good person to join my team. Let's just have him come into Microsoft. So we have such programs, but what we also seek to do is just make sure that anytime that you're looking for a role or whatever task it is you're very competent in, please look at all the other events happening, how you can network within your ecosystem, how you can also get mentorship from senior engineers such as himself, so that you can also grow in that particular sense. So for Microsoft, those are the kind of programs that we do have.
Well, so I think even before I answer that question, one of the things that has really been close to my heart is getting to understand where the skill gaps come from. And I think from my assessment, which I don't know if I should blame the education system or anything, but you'll find that most of well, the entry-level talent, let me put it as that, most of the entry-level talent are not able to meet qualifications for the roles, for the skilled roles that are out there. Because to give you a case example would be a computer science graduate. A computer science graduate would really have to go do another certificate, probably join Moringa and do Python so that they can actually get the skills they need for employability, right? Another thing that is also that I've also realized that also brings about the skills gap is there is new emerging roles, and there is few talent that, or rather few candidates who are able to fill those particular roles. So with that said, I think organizations, and particularly where I am at Azania, so what we have done is get to understand what is it that is just get to offer a platform where guys can actually learn. So we have partnered with the likes of EDX. You've heard of EDX, right? Yeah, because learning is a lifelong process, and you'll find that by the time you're doing Angular 11, probably 12 has already come out, right? So just being able to be that bridge where we don't have to let people go just because they lack something from their skill set, but just see how best you can augment learning as part of even KPIs, because I know there are hiring managers who actually have learning as a KPI. You should have learned 40% or something. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I won't be much. I know people must be very hungry. Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, Amos, that you brought up a very critical thing, the skill gap thing. Huh? In our company, we don't really see that as a gap as long as the person has done some kind of programming prior to that. Say we are looking for somebody in the Python space. Fine, we are not. If we find somebody in the Python space, nothing like that. And if we don't find because of some reason, we see, okay, fine, you're a Java developer, no problem. We have this opportunity. And trust me, if you've been into the programming and if you mastered, I don't want to call that the top level mastery, but at least you've gathered enough information in one programming language. We can easily bridge it. In Bring Global, we don't see it as a gap or a skill gap. No, we want only this guy, probably Python, I want 30 years. No, that's not possible, right? So definitely. So what we see is we try to look for talent who has done some kind of programming, and then we cross skill. Like we have very good use cases. We picked a few people like Roy, Emmanuel. They came from a very different background, and we had a different requirement altogether. Probably in a matter of 2 months or 3 months, they just got upskilled themselves, and then they are in the project right now. And trust me, what you learn on probably Moringa or on your own on YouTubes and all, they may not directly be exactly same what you are needed. It's way beyond that. So we will cross-train. That's how most of the organizations also do it. So there is a gap, but that can be easily bridged. Yeah.
So as it has been said by most of the panelists that have gone so far, I think this skill gap thing mostly trickles down to mostly the recruitment process. And I think one of the roles that corporates can actually contribute to trying to fill in this is mostly looking beyond the technical skills. And what I basically mean by that is we should be able to accommodate more new entry-level roles, like more juniors into the roles. And what we can do is, outside of looking at the technical skills, well, that is very important. And for the companies that still look at educational background, which I don't think is really relevant in this day and age, but one of the key things is actually looking at the hunger that this person has to learn. Because you'll find that, well, it's fine, you can bring someone who has the technical skills that you need right now, but if this person is not learning so that they can evolve as tech evolves, then in 2-3 years, they won't be of much value to your business. So it's very important to bring in someone who has the desire to learn and then create a way as a company to incentivize learning. That means, providing things like learning programs. Like for example, in my company, we usually have things like book budgets where you can be able to request for a book and then it's bought for you. We have subscriptions for some of the learning platforms out here. So why not just take in juniors, and then from there you can be able to upskill them as they are able to still learn on working on real world projects. Yes.
So I think one of the things that can be done to bridge the gap in skills is sort of helping people understand that real programmers are self-taught. Most of the things we go through in terms of learning is going to the website and reading the documentation. And ideally, that should be enough, but of course, it's never enough. So some other things that you can do around that is practice around the things that you are passionate about. So if I was to use my example, I'm a computer science graduate, but I didn't go to a school to be taught like how to code in JavaScript or Angular or whatever. But ideally what was happening while I was in school is I was really passionate about web development, and there was maybe a unit around it, but even after the unit, I was still passionate about it. So even from your side, what are you really passionate about? Because that passion will drive you to actually go out of your own way to become really skilled at it. And by the time you're looking for a job, then you already have so much under your portfolio, and it was all born through your passion. Yeah.
Okay, so currently we have two things around this issue of skill gap. So number one, there's a program we want to launch. It's called an apprenticeship program, where we are looking forward to train like 1,000 youths on different upcoming technologies. So we are going to partner with people like AWS to ensure that we are creating talent that is ready not just for Safaricom, but for the industry. So that's one of the biggest programs that we want to launch that will help us or help the industry with the skill gap issue. Then number two, so we also want to launch a learning agility assessment for our entry-level roles or internship, so that we don't assess you basically on the hard skills that he spoke about, but also how is your learning agility? How are you willing to learn? Because that's what will matter of. So even if you are a Python person and you want a Java developer, but your learning agility is really good, it will become very easy for us to like train you. And then maybe finally, what he said, it's funny that I've hired a self-taught developer who, let's say, did education. They did learn on their own, and they are really good. And then we have people who've gone through the system, taught, but there's still a gap. So it also boils back to you people on how well are you also taking into consideration the changes that are happening and going a step further to learn.
Perfect. Oh, one more.
So, Amos, as we all acknowledge that there is a gap, right? It's like what we learn in our colleges when we get out of that place versus what industry needs. So, the organizations like Moringa, you people should take one step forward and bridge that. How you need to map, the big players and go to colleges or those tech institutes where they are learning and have some kind of sessions, workshops, so that what industry needs versus what they are learning. And when you bridge that one, that skill gap can be reduced. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm told that we are out of time. However, I just want to pick 2 questions again that can't wait for the next minute, and then I'll hand it over to the moderator. Any question from this side? Okay, thank you. Any question from that other side? Going once, going twice. Okay, he has a question. So go ahead, ask your question, then hand it over to him.
Hello again. So he mentioned. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm Agnes Cassie. I'm a full stack developer. I'm waiting to graduate. So he mentioned when looking for recruits, they go look for your Stack Overflow. So I was maybe wondering if you could expound on what you are actually looking at there. And also, he also mentioned the keyword. That too. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm Samuel once again. So I wanted to know from the recruiters, how would you perceive me if I came up to you on a serious note and told you that I believe I have what it takes to work in your company. I'm willing to do what it takes. And my second question is, I've gone to quite a handful tech events, and I've never heard one talk about like a portfolio. Is it important? Yeah, thank you.
In the interest of time, I think I'll just allow 2 people to respond to this very quickly. So one is for you specifically, for you to handle your question, and then I'll pick one person.
Okay. So you had asked about keywords, right? Yes. So what I meant by that is, for example, on your LinkedIn profile or on your CV, is that you need to outline the stacks that you're conversant in, right? Because if I can give you a case example of how we do it. So I go into LinkedIn. LinkedIn has a really good tool inside that is able to give me gives me a filter. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, so I'm able to filter through the skills. And you'll find right now that we are in the age of AI, the more times you have a specific skill on your profile, like for LinkedIn, the more, you stand a better opportunity of appearing at the top of the search, right? So say, for example, you have been, and this also depends with the career paths, because you'll find if I've been a front-end developer for, all my life till right now, I'll tend to talk more about if it's Angular in my profile, right? Because you'll find that there are people who will have their LinkedIn profiles just with the title only. But go an extra mile and also put in what it is really that you are doing in that particular company, right? And then the other thing on Stack Overflow, what I usually do there is really look for more profiles, because you are only limited to the database that you're looking at. So for me, Stack Overflow would be getting to look for more candidates that I can get that I've not found on LinkedIn or any other place. Yes.
Okay. Irene, please respond to the other 2, then we can wrap it up. I think our time is somewhat spent.
All right. So for your first question in terms of if you approach a recruiter and you're seriously wanting to work for their company, number one, you have to realize we get these like hundreds of them, either on LinkedIn or even as we are having like the sessions today. A lot of people came up and asked how can I get into Microsoft and all of that. But at the end of the day, if you are passionate and if you have the competitive edge, how will you stand out? If you reach out to me on LinkedIn and tell me, I'm a mobile developer, please consider my profile. And do you know how many of those that I get? I get enough of those. So I think it's how you structure even your reach out. You can even attach a link to some of the projects that you've done or to the apps that you've created or whatever you think will make you stand out. And also, you have to show me that you actually research the company that you want to join and what kind of impact you think you'll come and make in the company and what values of that particular company align to your values. Because at the end of the day, that is one of the key things we look at. If your values and the company values don't align, then I don't think we would need to work together. Yeah. So for your second question, I didn't quite get it. If you can ask again. So I think for web portfolios, for as a recruiter at Microsoft, one of the things that I look at is if you have those attached, like the links attached to your CV or your LinkedIn or even your GitHub. Now, if you do have, I might be curious to go and see exactly what it is you've done and how it is that from someone who is non-tech, would I be interested in this? Would this be something if I hand over to maybe a solutions architect or the tech screener who is going to screen you, what kind of value do they think it will add to you as a person? So I think it's just how you market yourself. Really, recruitment and applying for jobs is how you market yourself. You might be very good on paper, but even if I come up to you and ask you, by the way, why should we hire you for Microsoft? And then you don't really bring out that passion. For me, I'll just look at you and say, okay, fine, you might be good on paper, but really I don't think you'd be a great fit for Microsoft. So it's how you package yourself at the end of the day and how you even do your reach outs. You just can't do a basic reach out and expect someone who's receiving 1,000 reach outs a day to actually respond to it. I might respond and ask and tell you, hey, look at our careers page, here's the link. But if I see you've gone the extra mile, I might actually say, here's the link to my calendar. Let's set up a meeting. Let's talk about the roles that are available. Yeah?
Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I know we are out of time, but these individuals, after this session, they will not disappear. They will not vanish. They will be here. So feel free to grab one of them, have a continued conversation. If you have any other question, I know none of them will push you out. They will probably give you time to speak. So feel very free and engage them and get the best out of them. Are we together? All right, so we've come to the end of this session, but I want us to appreciate them. I wanted to give them a chance to give their final thoughts, but we don't have that time. But I want us to just give them the traditional President Moi clap. Yeah? How many of you know President Moi's clap? We know them. Oh, okay. Who doesn't know? Okay. He was there. All right. So I want us to appreciate them the traditional way. Then from here, I'll invite Cyrus to conclude that for us. I just want to say thank you for the invaluable insights that you've given them. Please, as you go, allow these dear ones to ask you questions. I know they will be reaching out on LinkedIn. But if you do that, don't be the traditional Kenyan who says hi, then disappears. You wait another week, you say hi back, and then they'll ask you, how are you? Then another week goes, I am fine. 3 months down the line, you are still doing highs with no conversation. DM people with going straight to the point. Are we together? All right. So I want us to appreciate our judges. Now 3 kilo claps, the Moi style. 1, 2, 3. Funga, fungua, kata. No, we'll repeat that. So when I say funga, you clap funga once, fungua, kata unapiga ile ya mwisho ile ya power, okay? All right, so let's do it again. Makofi ya Moi, 1, 2, funga, fungua, kata. Good. All right, Cyrus, please take it away from here. Thank you so much for the time. Wish you all the best as you do your applications.
Thank you, Amos. I don't know why that's called Moi's Club, but yeah, I guess I agree with you. I have one announcement to make, but before I do that, I want to thank our panelists who've been here, just trying to share the information with us. I think it's been very informative and very encouraging to us. I know that we've been able to learn a few things or even more, and I think that's quite inspiring and breathtaking. So what I encourage you is to just try and see what you can implement from what we've been able to share here and see how we can be able to progress professionally as ourselves. Before I invite Steve to actually do the gifts for the panelists, I want to say that Safaricom is announcing that they will be having an info session at the booth, the booth that they were assigned to. So in case you're actually interested to know what that info is about, you'll just move into that place after this. Yeah, I was going to be very brief. I want to invite Steve to do the gifts for the panelists. Thank you again. And we're going to have this next time, and you're still invited to do this. All right? All right.
Right, thanks everyone. My job is very simple, to give a great thanks to our panelists and a fantastic audience. I am not a techie, I keep saying, I'm not at all. I'm actually director of marketing at Moringa, very new, so a lot of the alumni here don't even know me. So by way of introduction, my name is Steve Suchi. I've been in tech, worked in tech for a while, but I deliberately do not speak Pythons, I speak English. In a way that, and I guess one of the things that I picked out in the conversation here was just how important beyond your tech skills, beyond all that you amassed in school, at Moringa, how you present yourself to the marketplace. I think there's a whole gap. And I think at Moringa, one of the things we discovered is that there's a gap. You can be able to do all these things, but when you face a panel, when you face an interviewer, I don't understand. And so one of the things that Moringa we decided to do now is we imbibe a program we call the Professional Development Course, which is part of your core curriculum, whether you're doing data science, software engineering, so that we can be able to package you in a way that you're able to speak out, present, be able to be attractive to this market. These things that you're hearing, what was being here? Our moderator was talking about, he's here. You look like a student, so. Our moderator was saying about, that thing about going to LinkedIn and saying hi for 10 months. We're able to help you, coach you, the projects that you do in class, ideally what, industry is expecting, And so we're doing what it takes to be able to position our students to be ready for the job market. And I'm sure all of you can appreciate this event, right? How many of you guys are alumni? And the other are students, current students. So all of you guys are all current students at Moringa? All of you? Interesting, okay. And so and just by looking at the room, I can see I'm quite impressed by the number of women we actually have in the room. It tells you that, they always say what men can do, women can do better. It tells you that the solutions we have for the future, even look at the panel, it's amazing, right? Okay, maybe not, but okay. So a lot of you need to be here, right? So we're looking forward to an even more fulfilling engagement with our alumni going forward. This was just one of many. I know COVID kind of interrupted how we've been ideally doing this. And just for the panel, I think you need to also understand this. The events that we've done yesterday and today are really at the ethos of our programs. We don't necessarily run, training institutions for the sake of it. I had you give an example of going to uni. You come out, whatever you're going to do in a workplace environment is 5 years ahead. So what we do, then you now end up coming back to Moringa, which is really, counterproductive. And so what we've decided and we're very deliberate about, the current students will tell you this right now, they're enjoying a new curriculum and a partnership with Flatiron, which shows that our program right now is literally simulating the work environment. How we train, we don't actually have lecturers, as you know it, in traditional schools. We don't. We have what we call technical mentors. So it's very self-paced. They go to, you guys, why am I talking when you guys are here? Kama mna agree na mimi. Like, we actually run a simulated work environment program. They study an agile way of doing it. They've got Scrum meetings, they've got project meetings. They do all that. If you see even the guys who participated in the hackathon, you saw the kind of initiatives that came up. So we're really doing our best. We're doing our most to be able to start contributing to the workspace, the skill gaps that are there in the market. I don't know that all of you have interacted with the Google report that came out earlier this year, was it? In terms of just seeing how many tech skills are there for the African market versus the gaps that are there in terms of people. And so one of the things we're taking a very huge stand is to stand and say that we are going to be the ones that are able to contribute as much. We've looked at our space at Moringa, we've looked at different ways of training. We have an online class, we have a hybrid class. Our hybrid guys come to class two times a week, just to interact with each other, do projects together, have that face-to-face interaction, which means if you're coming 2 days in a week, you can actually double that number. So start to do, rather than a group of 200, you can actually do 400 in a cohort. And so those are some of the things that we're doing to ensure that we can be able to generate as many graduates who have the skills that can be able to take up some of these opportunities. But even beyond that, this events, the career fair, become the core of really what we do. Without this, our biggest success is not in how many graduates we have. It's in how many we have placed in opportunities, in jobs. The linkages we have with industry, the linkages we have with partners, not just locally, internationally as well. COVID was a blessing in disguise for all of you, for all of us. I mean, me enjoy working from home. I really do. And so getting to that space where we are relevant for the space, we're relevant for the market, we're relevant for what is required in industry, having these sessions where you come and interact, gets to a point where, and by the way, to your benefit, it is important for you guys to interact with the students more than they are to interact with you guys. Because they will take up their jobs. I'm sorry, but if you don't come back to school and this suit that you're wearing, very nice, tomorrow it will be this guy. And you're there wondering, what is happening? So get into that space where we have an ecosystem that is re-energizing itself. If you guys have skills that you can see in the workspace that you feel would be relevant for Moringa, we're more than happy. You come do a bespoke masterclass, 2-week program, run it through with support. You know about our partners with our partnerships with Mastercard Foundation. We recently announced a raise. We got a funder from France, English, Python. So the guys have actually come and helped us raise some money, which helps us with expansion across West Africa. We are seeing a lot of partners coming on board. Recently, was it 2 weeks ago, we actually received an email. Somebody from the Blues in London, sitting somewhere in London, decided to donate 70 laptops for our students to be able to get trained. And so we can see that we have a lot of love in the industry. We have a lot of admiration. We boast of about 80% placement for alumni. And that's why we work so hard. We have a dedicated team that gives this kind of support. And so we're getting to a space where we will come back to you to be able to, literally prioritize our students, because we can guarantee you, we have a program. One last thing, sorry, I'm a marketer, I told you. So one of the things, and the last thing I'll say is, and I'm not a pastor, when I say last, I mean last. The last thing I'll say is that we also are rolling out a program called Managed Internships. A lot of corporate companies are coming to us saying, okay, fine, we know that we need interns. This guy has come. He's such a serious hacker or a coder, we cannot manage him. We don't know what to do with him, but yet we know that he needs to deliver some work. So what has happened now is we're rolling a program called Managed Internships. So we'll give you the interns, but we'll be the ones who manage them on a project basis. So look after their welfare, look at not just welfare, but even in terms of their ability to deliver, present, be relevant to what exactly solutions they need to be able to give the business. And so in that way, we're actually piloting now with I&M Bank. And a lot of other businesses have come on board to say, we're actually interested in taking this up. And so it's a very interesting program where we get to see full end-to-end benefits for both our students as well as the corporates. Because the situation of coming to mmaliza shule alafu mnakuja mnaambiwa we only wanted senior developers. So what happens to the juniors? They have to start somewhere and then become senior, right? So we help bridge that gap and ensure that you're able to sort of earn that title senior. And to be honest, our students, I can vouch for them. You call them junior, but watch that space. Watch that space. I'm an church. Yeah? And so I don't want to say too much. I think I've really enjoyed this conversation. I'm really, really glad. I know it's a Friday afternoon. A lot of you guys would have started your weekend by now, but you found it useful to come and spend time with our community, and we're really, really grateful. And for that, we want to be able to appreciate yourself, the panel. There's some gift. Oh, they're here. Right. So, without much ado, I'd like to just, award each of you. Just say my thanks, Sana. Thank you so much. Everyone was very much. You look sharp, sir. Oh, is that so? How many? Okay, there's supposed to be a rumor, but let me not Natoboa. He says I have about 3 of the alumni at the workplace. But he says, who knows, there could be more. So I'm looking at the alumni who's sitting here. And if you guys don't talk to him, these guys will come and take this job before you guys. Because these guys have soft skills that you guys probably missed. But they are flat in the department. You actually need to come back to school, eh? Right. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. So I think, we have, totally look like a student. He needs to go back.
Need to go back to school. Thank you so much.
I guess really my work is done. Again, just to appreciate you guys so much. Please stay around, be a member of our community. I'm sure some of the students who were probably very shy at the moment would like to interact with you guys. So if you have some time, please feel free. As well, ask your questions. There's a job, he said. Who knows, there are many more. So please ensure that you actually come out of here with something, right? Cool. Hayo mengi na machache, asante sana.
So I think up to there we are completely done. I don't know what that statement meant. I don't speak English. Sorry. Yeah, but thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for participating. And yeah, we're closing. Thank you so much.
Sorry, I forgot to say this. Maybe this is to the panelists here, especially if you're doing recruitment for tech. Can we please continue driving the conversations around gender and inclusivity? Because I think it's such a huge thing right now. And I would say about the place where I'm working at, it's hard trying to find women who are actually trying to come up in this tech space. So if we can start driving those conversations around our workplace and also just upskilling them, just to make sure that they also have those opportunities, as well as, differently abled people who are actually interested in tech. I think if it comes from us and if we are able to influence it, however we are able to influence it in our places of work, I think we should start moving towards that direction. And also for the ladies here, please do not shy away. He asked you a question and you just, I understand it's nerves, but imagine you have to take up your space. You have to. There's no two ways about it. You either have to be as good as them or even better than they are, all right? So please, ladies in this session, do not be afraid to apply for those roles, ask for mentorship, just go after your dreams, because I think the space is really, really opening up for just gender inclusivity in the workplace, okay?
Thank you, Irene. Someone asked on LinkedIn, I think it's a video, probably you've seen it, and a random lady seated in a panel like this reached out to a random lady and asked them, in 5 years' time, she asked her, do you wish to become the company CEO? And the lady said, well, given a chance, yeah, I will consider that. Then she asked a gentleman, do you wish to become a company CEO? And without a thought, the gentleman said, yes. And the point there was, when equal opportunities are presented to the ladies tend to, you want to look at your environment and begin to rationalize, and you think how impossible it is for you to become the boss. Yet, their counterparts will say yes, figure it out later. And I think her point is, go out there, be courageous, put yourself in it there, figure it out badai, and I think just say emphatically yes, all right? I know this was not supposed to be another session, but I can see some hands are coming up. The announcement I had is the panelists can stand, we can take a group photo, then I think we are free to make any other comments, and I think I'll come to you, Wallace. So we can just be upstanding with the gifts, with the bags, indicating Moringa School. I think one side is Moringa School, one side is plain, and then the cameraman will do his thing. Thank you. All right, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I think these are... Okay, so the Safaricom info session will be done in this room. I think all of us can remain and wait for the others to join us. But if you must go, it's okay. Yeah, thank you for coming.
So I think I had one more request. So as she mentioned, we are very big when it comes to inclusivity. So